So this was the one from this morning, the Picasso thing. You know, close your eyes and sing. Nearly there. He's that close. I'm not referring to anything on there. I'm just saying it's that close. So I'm going to put it down and draw something else. Fresh eyes will pick it up if there's anything that needs to. I love the way this sort of works down here. You see that? All this sort of stuff. But yeah, we'll see how it. What a fresh eye will tell me. Still with the homemade charcoal. I don't think I'm going to go back to the other stuff. If you can't get hold of decent charcoal, then I can't help you. But I keep seeing. I'm probably seeing. I don't know. It's because YouTube decided that I should, you know, hang out with people, like-minded people. But I keep seeing. I'm drawing this guy, by the way. I think this is another Pinterest thing, but it looks to me like it's a product. It's either glasses. Hat looks a bit naff, so it might be glasses, or it could be neckerchief or whatever that is. Could just be a garment thing pushed up, but it's definitely it looks like a what's the name, a promotional photograph, but it's okay. So I keep seeing all these videos of people that are on the same wavelength as me, and whether it be, you know, on the production side, or whether it be the mental approach, the only thing I think there's missing with it is that they don't, you know, the motive side of it is not really one I saw this morning, which is looks like a great guy, an artist, and he was saying about the charcoal setting him free and all this sort of thing. Yeah, but I think what really sets you free if you have the right mindset. So doing it, you know, the whole point of this video is that, you know, why you do it, and I think that that's probably the one thing that does set you free. Just knowing why you do something, and really being honest about that as well, because often it's a case of we either don't know, or it's wrapped up in a kind of ambition or goal, or something that's supposedly inspired you. You know, that kind of I was inspired by other artists' work to do this, or I think the classic one that I have heard is the game show, the what's it called, Sky Arts thing, and this acquaintance, we were gonna. I mean, he works in Sheffield, and I don't know if he still does it, but he does these workshops. Not that he teaches or anything; it's just that he facilitates them. And he said that he was inspired by, or he wanted to make drawings because he saw the show, he saw the game show, and I'm not sure what. I mean, I could relate to that. I could have related to that certainly when I was 14, because it's kind of, wow, that's cool. I wish I could do that kind of thing. And but not now. It's not as an adult. I don't think that. And I think people probably do still find inspiration from the work of other artists, and perhaps a little envious of people's ability or whatever. But having something more than just it'd be cool to do that kind of thing, which is a bit like I've just seen someone jumping off the side of the cliff into some blue ocean, and I'm thinking, oh God, I'd love to do that. I never will. I'm too old for stuff like that now, anyway. But it's a bit like that, you know. And then I'm going to find out I don't book flights, tickets, whatever, You know what I mean? And where am I going to stay? And where is it in the world for a start off? And then and it's a bit like that. It's not this. It's not doing this. Is not like a desire to do something like, you know, I want to sail up the Nile and on a boat with the sail and all that kind of thing, you know, up the Nile River. I mean, that's another one of those. I wish I could do that, but I never will, as I say. But it's just like a thing that you might think would inspire you to do something. And I'm not sure that doing this should be that kind of motives. For me, the more I think about why I do it, the less I understand why I do it. Which is what I want it to be. I don't want it to be a fully understood thing. It has to have that element of uncertainty. You know, the searching thing, the unknown thing. I don't think that if I'd know exactly what I was going to do and exactly what I was going to do every day, that I would carry on doing it. You know, it would be just a mundane. It'd be a job, wouldn't it? You know, that's the thing, because you're doing it almost on automatic pilot. And I don't want that. I wouldn't want that. But as I said, the more I think about why I do it, the less I understand why I do it. Which I say is kind of what I want. I don't want to be because, you know what I mean? Although that's probably one of those. We were talking about this, you know, you grew up in the 60s and or 70s rather, and your mother said, do this. And you'd say, why? And she'd say, just because. It's a bit like that. It's a bit like, I don't quite know why, but I just know I've got to do it. Which I think I talked about that the other day. You just feel as though you've got to do it. It's not a reason for, you know, other than the fact that you feel as though you've got to do it. My reason, I suppose I normally say to people is that I just love doing it, and that in a way is all the reason you need. In a sort of one-way ticket scenario, you know, you're only going to get to do this once, so you might as well do something you love. Unfortunately, you know, many of us had to do the things that we didn't love. There are only a few that are lucky enough to do something they love as a job. I mean, I did do something that was creative, so in a way it was connected, but it wasn't this. It wasn't. I didn't have this kind of freedom. But in a way, as I say, I was lucky enough to put what I do to use in order to make money out of it. But then ultimately ended up working in computers. But I think if you can get to that thing, if you can get to the thing that makes it, you know, the reason why you do it, if you can get to that, everything changes. I think this guy this morning was on about how charcoal had changed the way he created, and really, yeah, that is one thing. I think the moral of that story is that charcoal is a difficult medium to work with, and it forces certain kinds of certain things on you. You've got to lose your dependencies on things like details and what you've got to compromise. But you remove things as a consequence. You know, it just doesn't do the thing that graphite does and what have you. And as you remove those things, you realise that what's actually happening is you're getting rid of the unnecessary. And the thing to learn from that, as I said to him, the thing to learn from that is this thing of suddenly realizing what's important and what's not, because you can't physically do it with the charcoal. Apply that to any other medium, and all of a sudden that's when you realize what charcoal can do. You know, you're working with charcoal, working with a medium that's not familiar, I suppose. On the workshop, I mean, I don't do the workshops now, but when we did the workshops, I used to. One of the weeks was about fearless mark making, and basically it meant just using a medium you're not used to, and still drawing or painting or whatever. And the idea that because it's not something you understand, there's nothing to lose, you know. And that was, as I say, that was quite an effective way of getting to grips with the fearless mark making thing. And as I say, because it's not limiting. It's limiting because it doesn't do what you want it to do. So that's the limit. You can't do the thing you used to doing. But because of that, you find new ways, and I think that's when creative people come into their own. You know, if you are genuinely creative, you will make it work regardless. It won't stop you from being creative. If you can't make it work, then let's ask the question. But I think that the way that charcoal has this. I don't think it's limiting. I think it's more refining effect on your creativity because of that. And if you do it often enough, I've said this before about if you want to learn to paint, draw with charcoal, because I think it's one of those things that will help you to understand the hierarchy, you know, the levels of importance that you need to observe when you're painting. I mean, I've just seen a guy, I don't know, is his name Ned or something? This guy's like, you know, he's a god, basically. I've seen his, but he does scenes, and at any other time, you know, when I was a watercolorist, scenes were my thing. So seeing somebody who could draw a market scene, you know, with a bunch of people sat around eating fruit or whatever, I would be in, you know, oh, that's fabulous, you know. I even seeing, you know, Soroya's fishermen on the boat and all that kind of thing. And I'd be, wow, look at that. I've got no going back to this thing about being inspired. I've got no feelings towards that kind of stuff at all now. It's just, yeah, that's brilliant. That, you know, it's and it is brilliant. I mean, they're absolutely fantastic, these drawings he does. And it's, you know, man, it's like me, but he's been doing it all his life, so he's got a head start on me. But it's just everything that I talk about, really. Someone that he's doing a demo on a portrait or whatever he was doing, and I thought, and he was saying just the same things that I say, you know. So it's a common thing. We in terms of production. I mean, I'm not talking about the motivation. I think his motivation is just that he does it. He's a great artist. But what I'm talking about now is this: why do you do it? Why do you do it? And I think it's a great lesson that to start with. You know, if you're struggling with drawing full stop, just, you know, come back to why you're doing this. Why is it that you want to do this? And why is it you want to do it that way? Because that's the other thing as well, is that we kind of get locked into an expectation of outcome, and that can be the reason you do it, which is not a good thing, because that, as you know, would ultimately end up in frustration and wrong thinking in terms of what you think you should be doing and how you think you should be doing it. Because the thing is with expectations based on outcomes is that you chase whatever it is to, you know, facilitate that outcome, but the outcome might not be right for you. You know, it's one of those things where you know, you look at great work and inevitably they say you might think, oh, I want to do it like that. That's what inspired me, but it might not be you, that. So got to be careful with that kind of thing, because you'll end up, as I say, you'll end up chasing those expectations and the methods required to achieve those expectations. And that all comes back to why you're doing it. You know, it all comes back to the reason. I think the thing about, you know, doing it regardless for me is doing whatever happens, doing it regardless is the kind of the fundamental for me. Just if it may work, it may not work. Not really bothered about that. I'll tell you one thing as well. The guy that I'm talking about, I think his name was Ned or something. He had a definite structure to his, you know, his approach. And one of the things I think that is a problem with that kind of thing, as I say, he's a brilliant artist, so please don't think I'm criticizing him anyway. But the problems I've got with that is that there's a lot of outer drawing. You know that thing where they can draw the extremities of the head straight away? All that says is there's got an incredible level of skill based on an incredible amount of practice. It takes some doing to do that. But one of the things that I think is missed out on that is that this ability to see the tones, to see the locations of things and the relationships of things, all that's based on is this traversing the head, traversing the reference, the subject. It's all about that. You're looking at that, 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 looking at that. If that is confined within a shape of some kind, there's a limitation to the way that you can there is a possibility that you will fail to get the things within the parameters. If you're as good as this guy, you'd never would. I mean, he's just such a great artist. But that's the point. So he's taken the time to learn how to do it that way. And from my point of view, having only done it for a short space of time by comparison, I prefer to think of it in terms of relationships, constant relationships, almost in a fluid state. And when you see me sort of fixing things and moving stuff around, that is a indication of what's happening. It's not a hard and fast in the right place first time kind of situation. I can't do that. Even when, I mean, I've done the early starts, you've seen me do them, and everything seems to be where it should be. Drop some charcoal straight away, but that's just a practice thing. It's not really how you'd be able to do it unless you've done, you know, considerable amount of charcoals like I have. So it's not that easy to do that. I think what that comes from as well, you know, the early starts and everything's in the right place thing. I think that comes from the targeted observation stuff. So, you know, the dots. So, and that then develops into the feeling of the face straight away. So, I mean, that's probably what I would encourage people to do anyway. You know, always thinking about the relationship of things, and however you decide that you're going to target or tag the locations of stuff, however you decide to do that, if you develop that ability to see like that with accuracy, everything will benefit from that, whether it's the tones, the colors, whatever. You know, you'll never ask the question, how do I mix flesh tones? Because you can see, and it's only when you can see that you can see what, you know, the skin is and the colors that are within the skin tones, rather than relying on somebody's recipe, which is a bit weird, isn't it? You know, I mean, if I'm looking at this and I'm asking you how to mix flesh tones, your recipe for this particular flesh tone is going to be wrong, isn't it? So it just seems a bit crazy asking that question, or searching for other people's recipes and how to mix, you know, flesh tones and what colors to use. Particularly in that, I mean, that's quite an important thing. I personally, I mean, I don't do that many oils now, but if I do paint, I can see the colors that are in things. It's not, I don't need a recipe of such. There's colors in there that I can see. I mean, I do restrict the palette, but only because I ain't got any more colors, but only because it's easy. The restricted palette thing is a bit of a myth. It's a lot easier to paint with a small palette than it is to do with anything sort of elitist and clever. I would imagine that Zorn used those colors because those are the only colors he had. You know, I mean, that would be a shocker, wouldn't it? To think that, hang on a minute, it wasn't intentional. I mean, he was a great painter, don't get me wrong, and I'm sure he used as many colors as he could find. But I saw him paint something I saw one of his paintings of somebody on a dock sign, which was quite incredible, in boats and things. Quite incredible paintings. But they'd be huge paintings. I mean, they'd be huge paintings, and they would have taken months, possibly years, some of them. So it's all in context, isn't it? It's all with enough time and enough patience and enough money and enough paints and brushes, then I reckon that anybody could do a decent painting. It's just there's some kind of no, it's not a myth, but it's this idea that there's it's a unique thing that only certain people can do, and it is to some extent. But I think more of it in terms of those narrative stuff. I think that's more to do with construction than it is to do with what might be referred to as talent. But I don't know. I mean, I always look at those things now with a kind of I want to, you know, I'm not accepting, you know, that, oh, it's wonderful and that's it. I just ask the questions, you know, in terms of if I was painting that, what would I expect from it? You know, if I was in their shoes, how would I approach it? You know, bearing in mind the period of time and all that. But then again, you know, the sort of 19th century painters, it was only, you get this impression that they were mixing their own paints and all that kind of, a lot of them were from tubes or buy the stuff, you know, somebody else would have technicians that made the paints for them. And so it's not that romantic thing you think it is. Just like us, no different. And that's another thing as well there. You know, you kind of look at these people that are really famous and they're just like us. They're no different. They have the same problems, the same struggles, the same everything, you know, in terms of doing this. It was all no different. And they were motivated in the same way that we were, and we are. Probably more so. I mean, the need to... those that needed to make money were the real artists. I think those that didn't need to make money were not. That came from a different place. They may have been creative and they may have learned the craft and all the rest of it, but they had money. And therefore, it was almost like if they didn't succeed, then, you know, there's something wrong. Because that's the thing. It's like, if you've got, you don't have to worry about the rent and any of the bills. you know, if you didn't succeed under those circumstances, then you would really be a failure, wouldn't you? You had all the time in the world to perfect your craft, you know. So, and then you didn't succeed. Well, that would be. That would be then you would be a failure. That'd be me. That I'd you know, be born into money, and then I'd spend God knows how much time chasing up the wrong tree. That would be definitely that, doing what I wanted to do and then not realizing that it wasn't that after all. I should have been doing something else. Yeah. Yeah. So this, I don't know, this thing about your reasons for doing it. As I said, the more I think about it, the less I'm certain. Other than I just want to do it, you know, and that's, to some people that's not enough. You know, I think it is to me. I think I'm quite happy to say that. I just like doing it. Yeah, it's completely different to the female this morning, but at the same time, it's exactly the same. It's like well, it feels completely different anyway. But there's a lot of the inner marking stuff. You know, I was saying about this guy this morning. It was really well constructed stuff, and like I said, I try and find him and put a link to him underneath. But he is a great artist. So, but it was very constructed. And I think what happens with what I do is in terms of what he does, for instance, I'm kind of drawing or sculpting from the get go. His tends to be find the shapes, you know, the traditional sort of thing, find the large shapes, and you know, define them, and then work into those shapes. I kind of do that, but not in such an obvious way. I think I tell you what that is. I think because you've seen it on the eyes on the female. I'm not going to get that down because I think the charcoal will drop off. I know that sounds a bit daft, but the charcoal tends to sit on the surface on this paper a lot. So if I move it around a lot, I'll be shaking it off the surface. I'll wait until I've fixed it first. But because I'm working through the definition of things at the same time as the components that define them, their shape or their location or their tonality, because I'm working on those all the time from the start. These the marks are and the way that the marks evolve, they almost eliminate the need to go any further. You know, this thing of you because this is one thing you'll see. They'll put the shade, they put the big shapes on, and then put the tone onto the shapes, and then they carve into it. Well, that's kind of a bit backward for me. It's the the outlines and coloured in thing. So I'm at the same time as being aware of the larger shapes, I'm working within those larger shapes at the same time. So I'm still doing exactly what they do, but I'm putting in the bits, because one of the things that I know, as I say, it happened on the girl this morning, was that the marks that occur during the process of the discovery. which is what it really is. It's not really about construction, it's about discovery. So the marks that appear in those early discovery moments sometimes are so right that there's no need to go any further with, no need to start to sort of find the larger shapes and make them even more pronounced or whatever. There's not. It just feels like you don't need to do that because you're already doing what's necessary to describe what's happening within something. And I think that's why it becomes, for me, it becomes more of a drawing thing, becomes more visibly drawing rather than a photorealistic thing. It's still got a lot of the early mark making, a lot of the linear stuff that I do. I'm not trying to draw lines, but I use lines. They're just another mark. And I think that's probably why, as I say, they end up looking like they do. So it's got that drawing feel about it. You know, that's a typical example of what I'm talking about. You could put a shape in there, right, and then put a tone onto it and then work into it and put a highlight. But I do all that all at once. And that may stay like that because it still describes the hat. It still describes the highlight's in the wrong place, but it still describes the hat to people. It doesn't need to be a perfect photographic replication. So I don't know. As I said, part of me is I can explain what I'm doing, and part of me can't. It's like in practical terms, I can tell you what I'm doing. In motivational terms, I can't tell you really why, other than I love doing it. And I think the motivation side of it is the bit that I focus on. Everything that comes off this, everything that I end up, talking about this thing is part of the motivation. If my motivation is just to simply love doing it, regardless of the execution, which is that zero expectation thing, or part of that, then that'll determine how I go about doing it, and whether or not it's done, and whether or not it's, it needs more work on it, and all that will come from my motivation. Yeah, yeah, I think that's definitely in the right place. I'm gonna just get the neckerchief scarf thing sorted, but which can be I'm not sure about the getting confused with all the tonality of all that, because I'll end up just getting it all around my neck and not doing anything right, but indicating that's probably an easier way of doing that. I'm just looking at the I mean, his mouth is like that, but it's a little bit more yeah, it's the chin. You see how that changed when I did that then? So it's a bit more of a as it comes down there. I'm just looking at this distance here at the moment, and we'll try and get rid of the pout in the lips. Yeah. Yeah, so just come back to the reason to do it. I just want to do it. That's the simple answer to that. I just want to do it. More so now because of because of my age and the years that I wasted not doing it. I think that's probably one of the major factors. Not sure. I mean, if I really wanted to do it when I was younger, then I would have done it, wouldn't I? I wouldn't have waited so long. So I don't know how that sits with it. I wouldn't have left it so long. Oh, I might have. I mean, I do remember being completely distraught, kind of disappointed, whatever you want to call it. But I do remember that feeling, and despite trying for a couple of years, in '89, just trying to, in between working, I was trying to find a sort of commercial outlet for it. But and then all the the horrible things that happened with that. So I think all those were just scars, which in a way I think some of them are still there. And we hear me banging on about not being too bothered about materials or techniques or all that kind of thing. All that, they're all leftover scars. So, but I counteract all that by just simply doing it. It's just so it's not even I'm doing it this way because in the past I would have done it this way and I hated doing that. None of that. It's just the way to get over the scars is to do it. For me, and I say it's good enough. I can just get up every day and the first thing I think about is doing this, and so. And it's a luxury, it's that luxury. I never had that before. So another thing I had to earn money to feed the kids. So I couldn't give myself that luxury. I couldn't allow myself that luxury. Mainly because I said before, I'm kind of all in sort of guy. It has to be all or nothing. I can't do it. I couldn't have a hobby. It's going to be, if I'm doing it right. It's that kind of thing, and I do that with everything. So whether it's when it was my job or whatever, it was always 100%, not messing about. We're doing everything. We're doing it all. So that just wouldn't have worked. I couldn't have had this as a hobby. It just people do. I mean, that's the thing. People do have, do this as a hobby, which is great. And I'm envious of of that. But as I said, I can't, or I couldn't. I don't have a hobby now. I just do this. I don't even. It's not even a, It's a. I don't have time for hobbies. What do you do in your spare time? Yeah, it's interesting as well. This I know I'm rambling on about all this stuff, but interesting how lateral elements can affect the balance of things. I always, when I first started doing it, I was always struck by how, because I don't know where it came from, but so I remember someone saying draw the whole thing at once. I think it was a guy in somewhere in Yorkshire. I think he works out of one of the stately homes as one of the converted barns. There's classes and things, but and he was talking. I think he was talking about drawing. It might have been figures he was talking about, but he was saying drawing the whole thing at once is the goal for him, and it kind of stuck with me that was the thing, to draw the whole thing at once if you can, because everything relates to everything, and this relates to that, and the size of that ear is related to that size of that thing, all that kind of stuff. So and when I sort of increase densities, or I confirm the location of things, I can see how it impacts on the things that I'm diagonally or horizontally or vertically related to. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to go back to the girl just to see if my eyes have reset, because what will happen is that it'll reset, and then I'll see what needs to be done on it. The usual way I do that is to do more than one at once anyway. So I've done like 5 at once, just to sort of get my my eyes in the right place, rather than it being, I'll just focus on the detail and build, which is fine. And I'm, the hair on things and all that. I get to a point where I can do that, like on this one, and I'll focus on that, and just, which is, as I say, it's great. But if there's something I need to realign, or something that I need to just get a better vision of, then just a quick break from it to draw something else, then come back to it often resets my vision. Because doing something else, doing another subject, will always do that, because you're going to be focusing on completely different things. Anyway, I'm off. I'm done. Yeah, I'll catch you later. There's really time for a few more, I think, today.